Next speaker is Jan Sonck. Jan is Business Innovation Lead at Proximus. And Jan will share with us how the telecom mobile network data has proven to be a valuable information source to build a digital footprint and to put context in motion. Jan, the floor is yours.
Okay. This one works. Okay, 15 minutes. Good morning, everybody. It's about 5 years ago, and 5 years, it was long before Philip van Impe was born even, that my attention was triggered by this document. This document is a study done by a couple of telecom operators in Europe, and that said for the first time that it should or would be possible to get insights, intelligence out of mobile network data. And certainly, along the years, some of you have seen some examples. We started to read the document very carefully at Proximus between the lines. And between the lines, we could see that with big data analytics combined with mobile network data, we could do things that we couldn't do before. We could tell a sort of truth that we couldn't tell before with regards to the analysis of location information, of contextual, and so on. So we started to study. We started to study what was in the document, and the document said something about a footprint or a signature of people or objects. It's a little bit clear in a moment. In fact, a mobile phone, a smartphone, or an object equipped with a SIM card ejects or exposes about 200 to 300 location updates a day. And if you connect all these updates, these data points, XY coordinates and timestamps, you can draw up a sort of what they called at that time a footprint. What can you do with that? The first time, a couple of years only later, Eurostat, they published a study and they said you could do with that a lot of things. You could do statistics like you never did them before. You could do statistics in a completely new way. So we started to work with Eurostat and with the European Commission already in 2014 to analyze that. And yes, Accenture, a big name, big fuss, they published their own studies and their own documentation and use cases already in 2014 about what we could do with mobile network data. And nobody believed them. We said, these guys are crazy. Let's start and do something nimble and small because they think way too big. Some operators invested a lot of money in 2013-14 in what Accenture was preaching and praying. If today you take the documents of Accenture, well, they were quite close to the truth, I must say. So, in 2013-14, we said, let's get this tanker going, let's invest in big data technology. Because we needed big data technology if we wanted to expose all these big volumes of data out of our networks, to get intelligence out of it, to visualize, and so on and so on. We surrounded ourselves with partners, partners being universities, startups for doing the data, for treating the data, for visualizing the data, the open source community, and universities. Because we knew from the start, if we would fall back on the way we worked before with our own analytics teams, we would never make it. The first partner was, of course, in the tourism sector, because tourism, as it was set by and analyzed by the European Commission, was one which is easy to grasp. So with these first partners in Flanders, what we did was create a sort of set of algorithms specifically for their sectors, and we saw that after a couple of months that they were quite accurate in doing their job. In fact, today we can tell about, in real time, how many people visit the Belgian coast or the city of Bruges or whatsoever. Normally, it took before between 6 and 8 weeks to produce these kinds of reports. We got further and started to work at universities as well. We had a very intelligent PhD student of UCL. And what he did with our data, he came up to prediction. What he did was he took our data, he put analysis on it, a lot of mathematics, and he was able to predict, for example, the movement of large groups of people into the city of Brussels. It was quite impressive, and the guy today built a business out of his study. Very impressive. So we started to work with the city of Brussels, and today we tell them every day, all the time, how many people are visiting the most important touristic attractions in the city, and how are these things evolving. A very nice side project I would like to mention in this 15-minute slot is this one with Ghent University. What we did there is we crossed our data, just for fun, with their data, the movement around our antennas or cell tower data, with their data being open data, being data on citizenship and so on, and we came up with maps like these, quite detailed, and they tell something about CO2 emission in the whole country without doing anything. You can do it almost in real time, and you don't need equipment or sensors or whatsoever to do that. Very impressive exercise. Another one which got a lot of attention last year is this collaboration project. We're very proud of that. We did it with Statistics Belgium, with the European Commission, together, Eurostat, and we even went up into the United Nations, because what we did is we thought the idea behind was that we would not only do things in Belgium, but we could do them on a European scale and even on a global scale. I get back to global later, and the first study was this. We did was, of course, still in the area of tourism, but I really love the quote of the conclusion of the study, which said that with mobile network data alone, it is possible to count citizens in a country every 15 minutes. You should know that today it takes about 6 to 10 years to do a citizen counting. In Belgium, it sounds, and it can be interesting with regards to the influx of people, but if you take this thing and you put it on a network in a third world country, you can really start to do data for good, because you can see how people move within and across the country, and you also can count the people in a country. You know that a lot of countries are not really democracies, and nobody really knows how many people live there. Well, you can tell it if you count their mobile phones. A project we did last year in the aftermath of the 22nd of March attacks in Zaventem in Brussels was this one for the Belgian government. It's an alerting project. It's live almost. It's a project where people will be warned if something goes wrong. How does this work? Telecom operators give XY coordinates of all their users, of all their subscribers to the government. The government injects a sort of a message, and then everybody is informed, let's say in this room, if something would happen just across the street with regards to crisis. Something we don't want, but okay, things can happen. If we go a little bit further and we build on that case, then we can do much more. We can build trajectories. We can say, okay, quite in detail, how after a crisis or something like that, how do people move around? It can be move around in the city. It can be by car, by bus, by train, by whatever transport means. It's all things you can analyze. And you see the little Luciat logo here. It's my first publicity I would like to make. It's a Belgian company. They do fantastic work in 3D and 4D visualization of big data. You really have to look into what they do. With them, for example, we did an analysis on what happened in Zaventem 1 year ago. And if you start to cross a lot of data, it can become very complex to visualize, but we're working on that. Crossing data, I mean, how many people are there, where do they come from, how many people work in the environment, live in the environment, etc., etc. Very interesting things. Also in the aftermath of the 22nd of March attacks last year, we did this one with the KU Leuven. Very nice. What we did is we crossed our data, or the students crossed our data with citizen information and with information on the number of emergency beds in hospitals. And what they came up with was an answer that said If something happens at place X in Belgium, then we need to send these or these and these people to these and these and these hospitals. It was really a question asked after the attacks last year. And you could go further by injecting, correlating, and combining more data sources. I'll get back to that later. A real issue these days, and it will be on the agenda later today, I suppose, is trust. Trust from consumers to make sure that we don't abuse their data. Not for ourselves, not for commercial reasons, and not for the good. That we use the data right. Linked to that is privacy, of course, and the security of the data. People who worked with us for sometimes from universities, they said it's quite difficult or very difficult to work with telecom operators. And if you work together with, for example, financial institutions, it will be the same thing because we have very specific legislation, and it means that nobody outside the company can touch our data as such, and it's quite difficult to do. I'm convinced that we will find solutions on our way out. It's difficult to find the real stuff out of the noise, but I suppose most of you know that. We stepped recently in other projects, European-wide projects with the European Commission, because the European Commission and Eurostat, I really love that they are convinced that they can, at one day, maybe in 5, 6 years, replace what they do today statically with surveys and so on, with dynamic mobile data supported information. Another publicity is for this day. You were there, I hope. Be there next year if you weren't. Because what can we do with open data? And just an example here. Here we fuse our data with open data. Data with regards to average income of people. And we can see why the Docks Brussels shopping center is not so commercial success today compared to, let's say, the city center or the City 2 in Brussels. Because you see that the average income of the people shopping in Brussels is quite more important than the one of people going to docks. Very interesting for the people there. With regards to the business model, I would like to say is that yes, so far we provide universities and students and so on with data. It is quite difficult to do, but we try, we do our best. We believe for the future in a sort of a freemium model where we expose data for free to whoever he wants, and that we sell data in a much more and deeper granularity to people who are willing or capable to pay for. That's, I think, it's the model for the future. With regards to what I said on global scale, this one I like very much as well. It's announced in the GSMA Congress in March earlier this year. About 15 operators worldwide, they will put their data at the disposal of everybody who wants, led by the United Nations, to do data for good projects. We will really support that. I really love this initiative because it will give a boost to the use of mobile network data for the good. Another publicity, be there in May. And to end up, I would like to say that yes, things get more and more messy and complex, but challenging as well, because the more we work with data, the more we are convinced that we can get much more intelligence out of it. Because 5 years ago, we started dreaming by reading the document made by these operators, and today we already see there's a lot of things possible, but imagine, that's what I said in the beginning, we are convinced that much, much more is possible with data, and also for the good. Thank you very much. It's a pain in the ass thing, under 15 minutes.